There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when confusion turns into clarity. It does not arrive with noise. It does not announce itself with applause. It happens quietly, almost imperceptibly, like dawn replacing night, while most of the world is still asleep. One day you are questioning everything, and the next you are seeing patterns you somehow missed for years. For a long time, you have been living without fully understanding why certain things happened the way they did. You replayed conversations in your mind. You revisited old memories, trying to decode what they were meant to teach you. You wondered why doors closed just when you felt ready to walk through them. You questioned why certain people entered your life with intensity, only to leave without explanation. You carried the weight of experiences that seemed disconnected, random, even unfair. There were trials that once felt meaningless, moments when you felt tested beyond reason, delays that seemed unnecessary, losses that felt premature. You may have looked at others whose paths appeared smooth and asked yourself why yours felt layered with resistance, why every step forward seemed to come with an unexpected obstacle, why growth always required sacrifice. And beneath all of that, there was a recurring question that echoed through your thoughts in quiet moments. What am I really here for? Not in a dramatic way, not as a philosophical exercise, but as a deep internal search for meaning. You sensed that your life carried significance, yet you could not clearly define it. You felt there was something more, but you could not quite reach it. That question followed you through seasons of uncertainty, through transitions, through endings and new beginnings. What you are beginning to understand now is that the moment of realizing your purpose is not about discovering something entirely new. It is not about suddenly becoming a different person or receiving a completely foreign assignment. It is about reinterpreting your past. It is about seeing that the pieces were always there. The confusion was never emptiness. It was incomplete perspective. When clarity comes, it does not erase what happened. It reframes it. The setbacks transform into preparation. The isolation reveals itself as strengthening. The repeated tests become evidence of refinement. You start to see that what once felt chaotic was actually constructing something within you. You begin to recognize that you were being shaped long before you understood what you were being shaped for. When the chosen one realizes their purpose, they don't become someone else. They become fully themselves. The traits you once questioned become assets. The sensitivity you tried to suppress becomes discernment. The resilience you develop through difficulty becomes stability. You stop trying to fit into roles that never felt natural and start embracing the identity that has been forming beneath the surface all along. This realization does not inflate your ego. It grounds you. It does not create arrogance. It creates responsibility. It does not make you louder. It makes you clearer. And that clarity changes the way you see everything that came before this moment. If this feels like it's speaking directly to you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who's been searching for answers, and subscribe to the channel, because what you're about to understand may change the way you see your entire life. The pattern suddenly makes sense. There is a shift that happens when clarity arrives. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It feels more like stepping back from a painting you have been staring at too closely for years. Up close, all you could see was scattered brushstrokes. Some were dark, some were abrupt, some felt misplaced. But when you finally step back, the strokes begin to form an image. The chaos softens into structure. The confusion settles into coherence. Past events begin to connect like pieces of a larger design. You start remembering moments that once felt isolated and unrelated. A rejection that pushed you toward a different path. A betrayal that forced you to strengthen your boundaries. A failure that redirected your ambition. A delay that protected you from a situation you later realized would have limited you. These events no longer sit in your memory as random fragments. They line up. They echo one another. They reveal a quiet thread running beneath everything. You begin to see that what looked like detours were actually precise turns. What felt like setbacks were necessary recalibrations. The job you did not get made space for a skill you needed to develop. The relationship that ended made room for self-respect you did not yet have. The move you resisted positioned you in proximity to something that would later shape your direction. At the time, You could not see the connection. All you saw was disruption. But clarity has a way of stitching together what confusion kept separate. The pain you endured now looks like preparation. This realization can be both empowering and humbling. The experiences that once felt purely painful now reveal purpose. The loneliness built independence. The misunderstanding sharpened self-awareness. The emotional weight strengthened endurance. What once felt like evidence that life was unfair now feels like evidence that life was forming you for something specific. Pain has a way of carving space inside you. It stretches your emotional range. It deepens your empathy. It strengthens your discernment. Without those early wounds, you might not have developed the capacity you now carry. Without the discomfort, you might have remained untested. And without being tested, you might not trust yourself the way you do today. This does not mean the pain was easy. It does not mean it was pleasant. But it means it was not pointless. Failures reveal themselves as redirections. There were times when you believed you had lost something essential. Opportunities that seemed perfect but slipped through your fingers. Plans you worked toward for years that collapsed unexpectedly. Moments when you felt certain of a path, only to watch it dissolve without explanation. At the time, those moments felt like endings. Now, they look like intersections. When you revisit those memories with new perspective, you realize that the path you thought you wanted would not have aligned with who you are becoming. The success you chased might have confined you. The approval you sought might have required you to shrink. The timing you demanded might have placed you in environments that would have stunted your growth. Redirection is rarely gentle. It often feels like loss before it feels like alignment. But when you trace the trajectory of your life, you begin to notice that each redirection placed you closer to your authentic path. You did not lose ground, you shifted course. Realization is pattern recognition. This is the heart of the awakening. You are not receiving entirely new information. You are recognizing the pattern that was always there. The repetition of certain lessons, the recurring themes in your relationships, the consistent pull towards specific interests or values, the way certain environments energized you while others drained you. These patterns were signals, quietly pointing you toward alignment. When you were in survival mode, it was difficult to see the pattern. You were too focused on getting through the moment. But now that you are stepping into awareness, you can see the structure behind the struggle. You can see that each phase built upon the last. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was isolated. You understand that nothing was random. The timing, the encounters, the closed doors, the open ones. Even the delays that frustrated you now appear strategic. If certain things had happened sooner, you would not have been ready. If certain people had stayed longer, you might not have grown. If certain opportunities had succeeded, you might have settled for less than you were capable of carrying. This understanding changes the narrative you tell yourself. Instead of asking why everything felt so difficult, you begin to ask what it was preparing you for. Instead of labeling your past as chaotic, you begin to view it as coordinated. Instead of seeing yourself as unlucky, you recognize that you were being positioned. You see that you were being guided quietly all along, not necessarily through dramatic signs, but through subtle nudges, through discomfort that pushed you to move, through intuition that warned you when something was misaligned, through circumstances that shifted just enough to redirect you. Guidance does not always look like clarity in the moment. Sometimes it looks like confusion that later reveals direction. Think about how many times something ended, and you later realized it was necessary. How many times you resisted change, only to be grateful for it months later. How many times you doubted your path, only to discover it led exactly where you needed to be. Those are not coincidences. They are evidence of alignment unfolding beyond your immediate perception. This recognition does not erase the hardship, but it transforms how you interpret it. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as a participant in a larger design. You begin to trust that even when you cannot see the entire map, the path beneath your feet is intentional. When the pattern suddenly makes sense, your past loses its power to confuse you. Regret softens, bitterness fades, resentment weakens. You are no longer stuck in replaying what went wrong. You are integrating what went right beneath the surface. You realize that the version of you who endured those seasons was stronger than you gave yourself credit for. You survived moments that felt unbearable. You adapted when stability disappeared. You learned lessons that others might have avoided. And all of that was shaping you for this clarity. The chaos was never chaos. It was choreography. Every movement, every shift, every apparent misstep was part of a larger sequence. You were not stumbling randomly through life. You were moving through stages. And now that you can see the pattern, you are no longer confused by the rhythm of your own journey. Identity shifts from survivor to leader. There was a season in your life when survival was the only goal. Not domination, not recognition, not influence, just survival. Getting through the day, managing the pressure, holding yourself together when everything around you felt unstable. You were focused on staying afloat, emotionally, mentally, sometimes even spiritually. Growth was secondary. Vision was distant. The priority was endurance. When you operate in survival mode, your energy narrows. Your decisions are driven by safety. Your boundaries are shaped by fear of further loss. You adapt to circumstances instead of shaping them. You become reactive rather than proactive. And there is no shame in that. Survival is a necessary stage. It builds resilience. It sharpens awareness. It forces strength to develop under pressure. But survival was never meant to be your permanent identity. As clarity emerges and purpose begins to surface, something shifts internally. You begin to recognize that you are not merely someone who endured difficulty. You are someone who developed capacity through it. The same experiences that once forced you to survive are now evidence that you can lead. Because leadership does not begin with authority, it begins with internal stability. You start to notice that others observe you differently. They come to you for advice. They sense steadiness in you during chaos. They are influenced by how you respond to stress. Even when you are not trying to lead, your composure sets a tone. Your perspective reframes situations. Your boundaries create examples. Influence does not always announce itself loudly. Often it is subtle, but it is real. Now you recognize your influence. In the past, you may have underestimated it. You may have dismissed your insight as ordinary. You may have assumed that your perspective was common. But it is not common to remain calm after repeated trials. It is not common to reflect instead of retaliate. It is not common to grow through hardship without hardening completely. Those qualities shape presence, and presence shapes influence. You begin to see that your story carries weight, that your endurance speaks without you needing to advertise it, that your growth creates permission for others to grow. Leadership is not about controlling people, it is about embodying stability that others can trust. And stability is forged in survival seasons. At the same time, another shift takes place. You no longer seek approval to validate your existence. There was a time when external affirmation mattered deeply, when being liked felt necessary, when fitting in felt safe, when rejection felt like a personal indictment. You may have adjusted yourself to gain acceptance, softened your opinions, minimized your presence, delayed your truth to maintain harmony. Approval became currency. But as purpose clarifies, approval loses its grip. You realize that validation from the wrong sources costs too much. It requires shrinking. It requires compromise. It requires silence when conviction should speak. And once you taste alignment, shrinking becomes uncomfortable. You would rather stand alone in authenticity than belong in misalignment. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When you know who you are becoming, you stop negotiating with environments that demand a smaller version of you. You stop chasing affirmation from those who do not share your direction. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You begin to trust your own internal confirmation. Purpose realization changes how you see yourself. It shifts your identity from someone who endured to someone who is equipped, from someone who survived circumstances to someone who can shape environments, from someone who questioned their worth to someone who understands their value. You stop asking, "Why me?" That question belonged to survival mode. It was the voice of confusion, the voice of overwhelm, the voice that wondered why life felt heavier for you than for others, why the lessons seemed harder, why the path seemed steeper, why you had to carry more awareness than your surroundings seemed to require. But now the question transforms. You begin asking, "What now?" That is the language of leadership. It does not deny the past, it builds on it. It does not dwell on unfairness, it looks forward with intention. When you ask, "What now?" you are no longer stuck in analysis of what happened. You are focused on what you will do with it. You are not asking for rescue, you are preparing for responsibility. And responsibility is the defining mark of purpose. You understand that purpose carries weight. It is not just a title. It is not just inspiration. It is accountability. It means your actions matter. Your words influence. Your consistency sets examples. You cannot live unconsciously once you know who you are becoming. You cannot pretend ignorance once clarity has arrived. Leadership begins internally before it manifests externally. You lead yourself before you lead others. You discipline your thoughts before you guide conversations. You align your behavior before you offer advice. And this internal leadership is what distinguishes you. You do not need a platform to lead. You need integrity. You do not need applause. You need consistency. As this identity shift settles, your posture changes. You speak with more certainty. You move with more intention. You withdraw from chaos instead of feeding it. You choose environments carefully. You invest energy strategically. You protect your focus. You are no longer just reacting to life. You are responding from alignment. There is a quiet confidence that develops when you realize your purpose. It is not loud. It is not performative. It does not seek attention. It is steady. It is grounded. It knows when to act and when to wait. It knows when to speak and when to remain silent. It understands that influence is not about volume, it is about presence. And presence is powerful. You may not yet see the full extent of your leadership, but the shift has already begun. The internal dialogue has changed. The insecurity that once dominated your thinking has softened. The doubt that once paralyzed your action has diminished. You still reflect, you still grow, but you no longer question your right to exist as you are. When you realize your purpose, you stop shrinking. You stop minimizing your voice to make others comfortable. You stop pretending you are unsure when you are clear. You stop apologizing for growth. You stop dimming your insight to avoid attention. Shrinking was a survival strategy. Expansion is a leadership posture. This does not mean you become aggressive. It means you become authentic. It does not mean you dominate spaces. It means you occupy them fully. It does not mean you seek control. It means you embody clarity. The survivor in you kept you alive. The leader in you will guide you forward. And this shift from surviving to leading is not about superiority. It is about stewardship. Stewardship of your gifts. Stewardship of your influence. Stewardship of the awareness you have earned through experience. You are not the same person who entered the storm. You are the one who walked through it and came out steadier. And that steadiness is not just for you. It becomes a reference point for others, a signal, a reminder that growth is possible beyond survival. The identity has shifted, and with it, your direction. Life responds to the realization. There is a moment after clarity settles in, when something subtle but undeniable begins to change around you. Not because the world suddenly rearranges itself overnight, but because you are no longer interacting with it the same way. The shift begins internally, but its effects ripple outward. Once you accept your purpose, your environment shifts. You start noticing that the same spaces feel different. Conversations that once held your attention now feel misaligned. Goals that once seemed urgent now feel unnecessary. You are not forcing change, yet change is happening. It is as if the world responds to the posture you now carry. When you no longer move from confusion, your surroundings stop reflecting confusion back to you. Acceptance is powerful. The moment you stop resisting who you are becoming, friction decreases. You are no longer trying to convince yourself that you are ordinary when everything in your journey has shaped you for something specific. You are no longer fighting your own direction. That internal agreement creates external clarity. Aligned opportunities begin to appear. These opportunities do not feel random or chaotic. They feel coherent. They connect naturally to your strengths, your interests, your experiences. You do not have to distort yourself to qualify for them. You do not feel the need to pretend or perform. They meet you where you are and stretch you without breaking you. Sometimes these doors open quietly. A conversation that leads to collaboration, an idea that gains traction effortlessly, a chance to step into responsibility that feels intimidating but right. The difference now is that you recognize alignment when you see it. You no longer chase every possibility out of fear of missing out. You evaluate with clarity. You choose with intention. It feels different because it is different. Before realization, you may have pursued opportunities to prove yourself, to validate your worth, to escape uncertainty. Now you pursue alignment. You are no longer motivated by insecurity. You are guided by clarity. At the same time, misaligned relationships gradually fall away. This does not require dramatic conflict. It rarely involves explosive endings. It is often a quiet drifting. Shared interests fade. Conversations grow shallow. Priorities diverge. The version of you that once resonated with certain dynamics no longer exists in the same form. And instead of forcing compatibility, you allow the separation. You begin to understand that not everyone is meant to accompany you into your next season. Some relationships were aligned with your survival phase. Others supported your refinement, but not all are designed for your leadership phase. Releasing them does not mean you resent them. It means you recognize timing. Letting go becomes easier when you trust your direction. You are no longer holding on to people or environments out of fear. You are not clinging to familiarity simply because it is comfortable. Comfort loses its authority when purpose gains clarity. You value alignment more than approval. You value growth more than convenience. Realization creates alignment. This is the foundational shift. When you clearly understand who you are and what you carry, your decisions align with that understanding. You choose differently. You respond differently. You invest differently. You speak differently. Alignment is not about perfection. It is about consistency between identity and action. Before clarity, your internal identity and external choices may have been slightly misaligned. You might have said yes when you meant no. You might have pursued paths that did not truly reflect your values. You might have tolerated environments that dulled your awareness. But now, that gap closes. You move in agreement with yourself. Alignment creates acceleration. This does not necessarily mean immediate material success. It means momentum. When your actions are consistent with your purpose, resistance decreases. You are no longer fighting yourself. You are no longer second-guessing every move. Decisions feel cleaner. Energy flows more steadily. You waste less time in doubt. Acceleration feels natural when alignment is present. You may notice progress happening in subtle ways. Confidence strengthening, influence expanding, opportunities multiplying. The path does not feel forced. It feels organic. Growth that once felt slow now feels fluid. You stop chasing and start attracting. Chasing is rooted in lack. It carries urgency and anxiety. It assumes that if you do not grasp something immediately, it will disappear forever. In survival mode, chasing felt necessary. You believed you had to pursue relentlessly or risk being overlooked. But when you realize your purpose, desperation dissolves. You understand that what is aligned with you will not require distortion to obtain. You do not have to overextend yourself to be seen. You do not have to exhaust yourself to prove your worth. You show up authentically, and the right doors recognize you. Attraction is not passive, it is magnetic alignment. When you operate from clarity, your presence communicates direction. Others sense your steadiness. Opportunities respond to your consistency. Environments adjust to your boundaries. You no longer beg for space, you occupy it. Life responds to realization because realization alters your frequency. The energy you bring into rooms changes. The standards you uphold shift. The conversations you tolerate evolve. You are not demanding different treatment. You are embodying different expectations. And expectations shape experience. You may notice that challenges still arise, but they no longer destabilize you the same way. You approach them with strategy instead of panic. You interpret setbacks as recalibrations rather than catastrophes. Even obstacles begin to align with your growth rather than threaten your identity. The world does not suddenly become easier. You become clearer. Clarity simplifies complexity. It removes unnecessary distractions. It filters noise. It strengthens focus. And focus multiplies impact. When you know what you stand for, you waste less energy navigating uncertainty. Perhaps the most profound shift is internal. You no longer feel like you are waiting for something to happen to you. You are participating consciously in what is unfolding. You are not hoping for destiny to arrive. You are cooperating with it. The sense of urgency that once defined your thinking softens into confidence. You trust timing more than you used to. You recognize that alignment matters more than speed. You understand that sustainable growth outlasts sudden success. As this realization deepens, your life feels less reactive and more intentional. You choose projects that resonate. You engage in conversations that expand you. You release what drains you without guilt. You build deliberately instead of impulsively. You are not waiting for your purpose. Your purpose was waiting for you to be ready. Ready to trust your intuition. Ready to release fear. Ready to stand without shrinking. Ready to accept responsibility. Ready to move without seeking constant reassurance. Readiness is not about perfection. It is about alignment. Now that readiness has arrived, life responds accordingly. Take a moment now and breathe in everything you have just understood. Look back over your journey with new eyes. The confusion, the repetition, the isolation, the survival, the awakening. It was never random. It was never wasted. And most importantly, it was never evidence that you were lost. You were never lost. There were seasons when you felt uncertain. There were nights when you questioned your direction. There were moments when you wondered if you had missed your chance or misunderstood your path. But uncertainty is not the same as being lost. Confusion is not the same as absence of purpose. Even when you did not recognize the pattern, you were still moving through it. Even when you doubted your progress, growth was still unfolding beneath the surface. No season of your life was wasted. The delays were building endurance. The failures were sharpening discernment. The loneliness was strengthening independence. The repeated cycles were refining stability. Every chapter contributed something essential. Nothing was accidental. Nothing was empty. The pain you endured expanded your capacity. The setbacks redirected your momentum. The survival phase forged the leadership within you. And now, this realization becomes a turning point. Not because everything changes overnight, but because you change. Your perception shifts. Your posture adjusts. Your decisions align. You are no longer interpreting your past as random chaos. You are recognizing it as preparation. You are no longer questioning your worth in the middle of uncertainty. You are standing with clarity that cannot be easily shaken. Picture this moment clearly. The chosen one standing at the crossroads of their life. Not panicking, not searching frantically for direction, not begging for a sign. Just standing still, aware. The roads ahead may still hold mystery, but the confusion has dissolved. They are no longer looking for a map because they have become the map. Their experiences, their lessons, their resilience have shaped an internal compass that guides them forward. There is no rush, there is no fear, there is only alignment. When the chosen one realizes their purpose, destiny stops chasing them and starts walking with them. There is a partnership now, a cooperation between who you are and where you are going. You do not feel hunted by time or pressured by comparison. You move steadily. You move intentionally. You move with quiet confidence. You are no longer waiting for life to begin. You are stepping into it consciously. You are not asking for proof before taking action. You are moving with faith, trusting that clarity will deepen with every aligned step. The confusion that once defined your internal dialogue has given way to understanding, and understanding creates peace. This is not the end of your story. It is the moment you finally understand it. If this message confirmed what you've been feeling deep inside, like this video, share it with someone who's waking up to their calling, and subscribe, because your next chapter begins with clarity.